Hi guys, Freddy here, welcome back to the desktop for another retro RPG. And you'll pardon the slightly odd lighting over here. It's because usually I record these videos by daylight because this desk is right next to a window which normally illuminates the desktop well enough to record. But today the weather is what I would call very Scottish. The sky is a dark grey colour and there's just not enough light for me to record. You wouldn't really be able to see what I was doing. So I put a ring light on, but that's kind of illuminating this section more. So when I bring the rulebook on, I'm going to have to avoid that section, or you're just going to see the big shine of a ring light. Anyway, this week I would like to present this, the Dungeons & Dragons Hero Builder's Guidebook, which came out in December of the year 2000 for Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. Ring light. It's an accessory book for helping you build your character, and it's a very lovely book. I'm very glad I have it, but it wasn't a lot of use for me because this is definitely for beginners of the game. This step takes you through creating a character and giving you a few ideas to start off with. As far as I can tell, there's no rules in this book at all. It's all just ideas, and that's a fabulous, fabulous thing. But when you've been playing the game, by the time this came out, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for 15 plus years. I'd started the mid-80s. So the book wasn't that much use to me. But it is a very nice book. Let's flip over to the back cover and start there. Hero Builder's Guidebook. Give your character every advantage. When you sit down to create a character, let your mind do the work. Don't just leave it to the dice. The Hero Builder's Guidebook puts at your fingertips everything you need to know before your character's first adventure. With this book, you will maximize your character's potential with step-by-step character advancement guides, create a compelling backstory for your character including family, friends, and enemies, pick from more than 70 variants to class descriptions in the player's handbook, choose personality traits to bring your character to life at the gaming table. Both players and dungeon masters benefit from this detailed character backgrounds in this book. You need the D&D Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual to use this accessory. And that's kind of what it is, if we go straight into it. Table of contents. Not wasted pages here. We're using the credits page as the table of contents as well. And we're straight on to introduction. What's inside? How to use this book and beginning. Taking from a very bare sketch up to a detailed character. That piece of artwork communicates very well what you're trying to do. And it goes through rolling your ability scores, and bell curves. So you're more likely to roll in the middle than you are at the very low or very high. And it's giving advice what to do. So, oh no, I rolled a 3. If you're unlucky enough to roll a 3 and your character wasn't hopeless, or you're going ahead anyway, you should strongly consider becoming a half-orc. The half-orc race imposes a -2 penalty to intelligence, but the minimum intelligence for a character is 3. If you put the half-orc and put your low score into intelligence, the half-orc intelligence penalty has no effect. So you can be a really stupid half-orc. Heroes with low scores, so it's sort of communicating whether your character is unplayable. Now, while I can get across the idea of playing an interesting character with low stats, I have to admit that Dungeons & Dragons, with its bonuses based on attributes, does mean that a character with low stats gets left out a lot. In our 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign, I rolled up a character which came up equivalent of about a 60-point character build, compared to everybody else whose was about 80 points. And to tell the truth, even though I was one of the fighters, I was a ranger at the time, my character was always just the hanger-on. Everybody else did the hard work, I was there as well. And that's not a load of fun. You like to be your specialist in your area. But I get what they're trying to tell you. Choosing your race and class. So it talks you through the benefits of the different classes, very much as told in the Player's Handbook. And we go through humans, and it talks through different types. So human barbarians, and if you want to play as a young brave variant or a castaway variant, with suggested skills and a suggested background. Human bard, jester or skald, human cleric with variants of village priest or crusader, human druid, hedge druid, human fighter, who could be a caravan guard, a human monk would be an initiate, human paladins could be a knight divine, human rangers could be a bounty hunter, and human rogues could be a spy, or a jote, a jack of all trades. And we've got human sorcerers being a wild one, human wizards having the option of being a professional. Now, these aren't classes. These are just suggested builds. So if you're being a human wizard, you can play as the professional, and it gives you suggested spells and suggested skills to build your character like that. We've got dwarves. So, dwarven barbarian, a lost one. So, clothed in skins rather than mail, and wielding weapons made of wood, stone, and bone rather than steel. Others think you make a pretty poor example of a dwarf, but if they look below the surface, they'll find the same passionate, focused half of all dwarven kind. Dwarven bard, who's a heartbeat drummer. Dwarven cleric. Dwarven druid. Fighter. Dwarven monk, uniqueness. The very concept of a dwarven monk is so unusual that you should develop a unique story of how you came to the monastery, what your goals are, and why you have set out on the path of enlightenment. So, there are certain classes which they consider to be so rare for their species that they don't bother giving a variant. And I do feel that's a bit of a washout. I would like some ideas, especially for the ones which aren't going to be as obvious to think of. Dwarven wizard has uniqueness. And Elven Barbarian has the Drow Slayer variant. There is one part of Elven society where the ability to rage without pause is considered valuable. The battles are against the ebon-skilled Dark Elves known as the Drow. We've got Elven Bards, Clerics, Druids, Fighters, Monks, who are also unique, Paladins, Rangers, Rogues, Sorcerers, who are also unique, and Wizards are the Travellers Beyond. And we go through different classes, where it's going through each class and giving you idea of how to use that class, so the racial advantage, the racial disadvantage, the ability score modifiers, whether they're useful for that particular class, and a variant for that species, how a gnome barbarian is different from a human barbarian, etc. So we've got the gnomes here, right through to gnome wizard, half-elves, who basically just lift from elf or human backgrounds, half-orcs. Which ones are unique for a half-orc? Half-orc paladin, half-orc sorcerers are considered. We've got halflings, halfling barbarians. We're getting into the worlds of Dark Sun here, aren't we? Paladins, rangers, rogues. And we've spent half the book going through the different classes, giving you some ideas how you can build a particularly interesting version of the class species combinations. Creating your personal history. So, how big is the community where you're from? And we've got some random tables to roll on. What the home climate is like. Whether it's cold, right up to you come from nomadic people, or they're from the mountains. Temperature is cold to warm. Terrain is desert to nomadic. Home community humans, dwarf, elf, gnome, halfling. Halfling home community. You grew up on the road with your extended family of up to 50 halflings. You came up in a human-dominated area. So different things you can roll to create your background randomly. What the family is like, your family's social standing, your family's private ethics, their public ethics in case they differ, their religious commitment, their reputation, the power structure. Are they unorganized? Do they have elders? Is it dominated by a single family member? Whether you've got any ancestors of note. Just helping you build up a background. Oh yes, I'm a halfling barbarian and I've got an ancestor of note who was a cleric of some repute. Education, formal education, learning a trade, life events. Oh, you survived childhood danger. You became a refugee. There was a death in the family of one of your parents. Youth events, pivotal events, relationships, what your relationship with your parents, your siblings is like. Your grandparents, your extended family, friends, enemies, and instructors. And it's got an example of Lucinda the Half-Orc Paladin. Selecting alignment, so it talks you through what alignments really mean. Do you donate time and money to improve the local community? So it's asking you questions to help you build what alignment. And talks you through changing alignment. And then planning your future career. So if at first level you're starting off as a ranger and you want to become an archer, it's giving you an idea what to go through. Fighters about feats and attack bonus. Ranger makes second best alternate. So an ultimate archer should actually be a fighter. Sorry about that. And what key feats to choose. What skills you should be choosing. The best buys for equipment. Fine tuning. If you want to be a swashbuckler, or a prize fighter, or a necromancer. A gadget master, a manipulator, a research wizard. A sneak, or a counterspeller. Or a friar. And then we've got some appendix, the rule of names. So, 3 don'ts, no Bobs. So Bob the Human Fighter's out. No Merlins. No joke names. Which is sad, because essentially half the characters in parties I've played in have had joke names. 3 do's, borrow names from other times and places. Make names out of common nouns and place names. The whole cloth. You've got nicknames and surnames, name lists for humans, dwarves, elves, gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, halflings, and orcs themselves. And a final word. Characters not limited to the list that fits their own race. Many a human bears the elven or dwarven name that his or her parents simply heard and liked. So it's got ideas for everything in here, but no real rules. Now, the Hero Builder's Guidebook, as I said, is a fantastic resource for building a character. However, once you've started play, it becomes essentially useless. It's a very good addition for beginning players who haven't played Dungeons & Dragons before to give you a bunch of ideas. And since it isn't rules heavy, although some of the builds and things and the suggestions of feats won't match other editions of Dungeons & Dragons, this sourcebook could still be useful to players to this day, especially with the ideas of what kind of character they might want to play, and names and family relationships. Those charts and tables might be very, very useful if you don't have any ideas of your own, if you just want to roll random and see what you come up with, which can be a lot of fun sometimes. Anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment, as it does me massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.